Before you ask, no, this one's not clickbait. It's so real that I'm filming this at my parents' house because I was on vacation, but I thought it was worth covering. The government's actually looking like they're going to try and make Google separate from Chrome entirely. And this could impact the web in ways that none of you are considering. Not even you Firefox fanboys. This isn't like, oh, Chrome might die or, oh, they're just going to go somewhere else. This is a death sentence for the web. And it's really important you understand, which is why it pains me that you have to watch an ad first. But if you can, we'll be back in just a second. We're doing a lot more of these breaking news videos, and as much as I love the current sponsors, believe me, I do, not all of them are down to get these really quick turnaround times. So if you're okay with not approving a script way ahead and getting a discounted rate in order to get into these breaking news videos, hit me up. YouTube at t3.gg. Anyways, this is the proposed final judgment from the US courts on what Google should or shouldn't do. And it's full of terrifying things. If we look for Android, for example, in here, they say that Google's manipulated its control of Chrome and Android to benefit itself. Android's a critical platform which search competitors rely on and for which Google has a myriad of obvious and not so obvious ways to favor its own search product. You get the idea. And they even call out right here, Google should divest Android. So if you know anything about Android and where it's at financially, you know this is a death sentence. Like Android does not make enough money for Google to care. This is bad. The Department of Justice's argument here is pretty straightforward. Google is a search engine, but they own other things that rely on search engines. So isn't it unfair that they can make their search engine the default in those things? I kind of see the argument there, but I think it's much more complex than they are letting off. Google's money doesn't come from their search engine. Surely it's how they blew up and it's the name that they're most known for. But the thing Google actually makes their money off of is primarily their ad platform. Now, and those ads aren't just served on Google, although I'm sure they make plenty of money there from it. But these ads are served all over the web. And the goal that Google has with products like both Android and Chrome isn't to make their search the default. It's actually something I would argue is kind of for the benefit of all of us. And I know, hot take, Google good guys, I'm not a big Google fan. I have a lot of content ripping Google to shreds. For the most part, I don't think we should assume good intentions from them as a business. That all said, Chrome has been an incredibly positive platform for the web. If you're anywhere near my age, you probably remember the days where we had to install Google Earth, Google Drive, Google Music, and all of these Google apps on our computers. And you probably also remember how bad and janky all of those were. Google had a vision, though. They wanted the web to be the platform for everything. And that was not going to happen with Internet Explorer, and it probably wasn't going to happen with Firefox either. That's why they made Chrome. Their goal was pretty straightforward. Make the web good enough that you don't need to install apps anymore. And I think that was a good goal. It's just put them in this awkward position now where the browser, which only had the goal of pushing the web forward, is now the default for so many things both within and outside of Google. Chrome won. I don't think we're here to argue that. It is the most popular browser ever made by a large margin. I would make the argument Google's done a surprisingly small amount of flexing of that monopoly. Chromium is still fully open source and is used for everything from Microsoft Edge to Slack to Spotify to Teams. Like all of these products from competitors rely on Chromium and Electron as the method to provide their own software. And the way Google's built this, if anything, has kind of opened their monopoly up so other businesses have an easier path forward to compete with Google. I can't imagine competing with Google on something like a map product, or in my case, a file storage product, if we didn't have a dynamic web that was ready to take on these types of loads and behaviors. And that's why I'm concerned, to say the least, here. And this is also only talking about Google and their immediate impact on the web and the things around Chrome. But there are some other immediate ways that they are helping these other competitors as well. This tweet makes a really important point. This is in response to somebody showing specifically that the DOJ called out Google needs to divest Chrome. They also suggested they divest Android, which is insane for even more reasons we'll get to in a minute. But this comment, I think, is pertinent and worth understanding. This would be a huge mistake. Google's also developing Chromium, the open source part, that serves as the basis for literally all other browsers except for Firefox, which Google mostly funds, and Safari. And remember the fact that Safari also gets a lot of money from Google paying for the exclusive deal on iOS for the default search engine. You could argue that should probably be illegal. I would get behind it either way, but Chrome isn't like money from Google is going to fund competitor products here. If you kill Chrome, you've reduced Google's reasons to make a better web and to make better web browsers. Why would they keep giving money to Firefox? Why would they keep giving money to Apple? You've disincentivized them continuing to fund competition if you make it so they can't even be there in the first place. There's also a good call out here that forcing them to sell Chrome fully kills development on a lot of important things that they've been pushing, from WebGPU, WASM, progressive web apps, and a lot of the other things. Admittedly, some bad ones too, like web components, but overall, there was a lot of good work going on from the Chrome team pushing the entire web forward. The amount of progress we've seen since Chrome came out in any given year trumps the 5 years before it. There just wasn't much work happening in web standards, and it's gotten significantly better since Google started taking it more seriously. And to say otherwise just kind of shows you haven't been paying attention to what's going on. Firefox is a fine browser, but Firefox is in a constant game of catch up to keep up with the awesome new features and tools that Chrome is introducing and helping get standardized. Here's a fun thing that just got linked to me. I didn't even know. I hate to do it, but I'll take any opportunity to dunk on Firefox a bit. It's a garbage browser. It just doesn't work. Apparently, they have a document where they call out which web standards they don't like enough to implement. And they say that they think HTML imports, for example, are a bad thing, so they refuse to support them. Or like private stale token APIs. It's funny that they've called out all of these things they don't want to support, even though they're part of web standards. Oh, Firefox. And here's where things get even sketchier. The amount of money that's being asked for here is around $20 billion. Who the fuck's gonna buy that? Like, it just makes no sense for any business to take this expense on, to spend the money on this purchase and then maintain and keep spending all the money to keep improving the platform. The harsh reality is that most competition in browsers has come from Chromium. The browser I'm using right now, Arc, even if browser company doesn't seem interested in supporting it long term, this browser is based on Chromium. And if Chromium didn't exist and wasn't maintained so well, this browser couldn't exist. The web is a comically better place than it would have been without Chrome. And the government might kill that. That's genuinely terrifying to me. There is another fun layer here, though. They're not just going after Chrome. They're going after Android. I hinted at that a little bit, but the implications there are terrifying because Google's already losing so much money on Android compared to iOS. It's hilarious. But they want to make it so people all over the world have access to decent devices and the web so they can keep getting new customers and also so their competition can keep growing too. Their goal has always been make the web really big, so if we own a percentage, we keep getting bigger. But this will make it so they're going to struggle to make the web bigger, and we're going to move more and more into our isolated little pockets of apps and further away from the open, fair web where we can all compete on the same ground. Google did put out a statement, and I wanted to take the time to read this and see if there's any important details that I missed, so let's do it. The DOJ's staggering proposal would hurt consumers and America's global technological leadership. As part of its lawsuit over how we distribute search, the US DOJ filed a staggering proposal that seeks dramatic changes to Google services. The DOJ had a chance to propose remedies related to the issue in this case: search distribution agreements with Apple, Mozilla, smartphone OEMs, and wireless carriers. Again, if the ruling here was that Google shouldn't be allowed to spend money making Google the default search engine in other places, that's an argument I'm down to hear, and I think we could have a good conversation about that. There was just a case that was Google versus Epic Games, the creators of Fortnite, that I covered on my second channel, worth checking out. That video was much more positive towards the ruling, and I think they made the right call there because they found monopolistic behavior Google had done and found a path forward that allowed them to keep making the product while still opening it up for more competition. All I see here is the opportunity for less competition. As they say in this article from Google, the DOJ chose to push a radical interventionist agenda that would harm Americans and America's global technology leadership. The DOJ's wildly overbroad proposal goes miles beyond the court decision. It would break a range of Google products, even beyond search, that people love and find extremely helpful in their everyday lives. This extreme proposal would endanger the security and privacy of millions of Americans and undermine the quality of the products people love by forcing the sale of Chrome and potentially Android. I could hear the argument here, but that's a bit of a reach. It would require disclosures to unknown foreign and domestic companies of not just Google's innovations and results, but even more troublingly, America's personal search queries. Again, The rest so far seems real. We'll keep reading it. It would chill our investment in artificial intelligence, perhaps the most important innovation of our time, where Google plays a leading role. Okay, that's a reach. That part in particular is a reach, but yeah, if they don't have a web to innovate on, the incentives to innovate on experiences that were supposed to go through the web, sure. It would hurt innovative services like Firefox, whose business depends on charging Google for search placement. Yes, as I said before, if Chrome is killed and Google is forced to move out of their monopolistic position here, Firefox dies with it. Like, there isn't a world where Chrome is successfully killed and Firefox gets to continue existing. Like, this isn't just take this from Google, hurt Google, take Chrome away, and everything's happy, smooth sailing. This is an attempt to destroy the web. It would hollow people's ability to access Google search. Again, a reach. And it would mandate government micromanagement of Google search and other technologies by appointing a technical committee with enormous power over your online experience. As just one example, the DOJ's proposal would literally require us to install not one, but 2 separate choice screens before you could access search on a Pixel phone that you bought. And the design of those choice screens would have to be approved by the technical committee. And that's just a small part of it. We wish we were making this up. Okay, they're focused too much on the part that I think could be good, which is to propose remedies to them actually holding monopoly within their competition by paying Apple and Mozilla. That there should probably be some level of regulation in, but the fact the court is suggesting that Chrome be divested entirely, that's the problem I have. That just is actual nonsense, and I wish they focused more on that here. It almost feels like they wrote this before that reach had been proposed, and they had updated it quickly in order to account for that. I do agree here, though, that this approach would be an unprecedented government overreach that would harm American consumers, developers, and small businesses, and jeopardize America's global economic and technological leadership at precisely the moment it's needed. I agree there. Most of the companies that benefit the most from the web the way it works today are US based. And if we want to keep our lead, we can't throw away the browser that is the lead. It just makes no sense. And that's why I'm frustrated, because this whole thing just feels years behind. The only reason that this could happen is the way the DOJ is thinking of Google is too much like Google.com, the search engine. They don't seem to understand Google's business well enough to know what should or shouldn't be separated. Google obviously benefits greatly from being the entry point for search on the internet. Duh. But it's not their main driver of revenue. It's not what makes Google the giant multi-trillion-dollar company they are today. And to fail to recognize that, and then to write something as terrible as what we just read as your attempt to separate it, it's making me come out as pro-Google when I'm supposed to be on vacation. I don't like doing this. I love making fun of Google. They're one of the few companies I talk about in my content that I have zero stock in because I do not trust their ability to be successful long-term. But this isn't an attempt to hurt Google. This is, okay, it is an attempt to hurt Google with the side effect of destroying the web alongside it. So I come out against this. I hope it doesn't happen. I guess we'll have to see, though. Until next time, peace, nerds. Cool. God damn it. Apple, Apple, Apple.